Hi, this is Butch Patrick, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
Holy, great interview! Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman. You're listening to Douglas Viviani and David Cohen's fabulous radio show, Everything's Old is New Again. To the Batmobile, citizens.
This is Bernie Coppell, also known as Siegfried from Get Smart. You are listening to Everything Old is New Again. You understand? Good.
Hey, it's Dr. Peter Weller. I'm here with Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen, my two best friends forever in life.
This is Anson Mount, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
How about that? Happy New Year, everybody. Look at this. David Cohen, my New Year's baby. How are you?
Gaga goo goo.
He's the New Year man. I'm 2020, maybe. You're 2021. And going back to maybe, how do I say this? Well, I don't know. Michelle DeFranco's here with us. I was trying to give her a compliment of some kind of a year, a good year, but I couldn't think off the top of my head of a good year. What year were you born, Michelle? I shouldn't say that. Let's go with me. In 1962, the year I was born, is Michelle DeFranco, representing a great year in history. Yes. Anyway, Michelle, thanks for joining us again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We showed off a little bit there with you with Butch Patrick, Burt Ward, Bernie Coppell, Peter Weller, our best friend, if you heard that, David Cohen.
Yes, I did.
And Anson Mount, who is going to be the new Captain Pike in the new TV series coming out next year. We'll have him hopefully back on Everything Old is New Again, and we'll see. But we're going to celebrate Happy New Year. It's New Year Eve.
New Year.
And I'll tell you what, it's and it's only figurative, of course, but wouldn't it be, and isn't it going to be nice to turn the page on 2020? Isn't it going to be nice? For many reasons.
Yes.
I know it's figurative, but yeah, Michelle, what do you think of that? Give us an idea.
Well, I think that I always used to say things can't get worse. They can only get better. But I really do think that's, then I was proved wrong, I think, throughout the year. But I think that this is definitely going to be a better year. I definitely think will be better times.
Exactly. Positive attitude. Something that reverberates for me is the Auld Lang Syne song, which we've talked about in our previous shows, but I'll give it a bridge version. Is that song basically, from what we're hearing in the adaptation of the Robert Burns poem, asks us to look back at days gone by in a positive way and try to remember the people that we don't see any longer. And I don't know if that speaks to you or not, but at least in some way, that song is trying to kind of say, close the book, remember what was the past, but you know what? We got a whole brand new year ahead of us. Let's start fresh. Let's enjoy. And Guy Lombardo, by the way, started that with his Royal Canadians in 1929. I should have said that's the year that Michelle represented, because that was the year that that song began, and it was on that night every year for 50 years. You would hear Guy Lombardo. Now, as a kid, did you remember, like, what is your favorite memory? And I'm talking about, as a kid, you weren't out on your own, let's say under the age of 18, for New Year's. Do you have any, like, fun favorite memories?
Yeah. We always had our neighbors, this whole family that we were really, really close with, Corsimos. They would all come up, and they had, like, 4 kids, and they were all, like, we just went down into the basement, the TV room, and had a great time. And our parents were upstairs, and lots to eat, and we got to stay up late. That was really great. I mean, it was nothing when looking back, it doesn't, but to me, it was everything. It was
it was, because you got a chance to socialize with kids with the parents in the house, but the parents weren't bothering you. They were upstairs doing their thing. You were downstairs watching TV, playing Pong maybe, or the electronic game in the 70s, or whatever game, and maybe Santa, or, for Hanukkah, whatever it was, you got a nice gift or two that you brought over, or that was there and you wanted to share with your friends. It was a very special, different, unique, fun time of life, I would say. David Cohen?
Yeah, we didn't have phones, and
right.
So we weren't that. I mean, I guess we did have maybe Atari at some point or something like that, but it wasn't. We would just play.
Yeah. And it was social, face to face and so forth, which we're now going to involve ourselves with a little more than maybe we're used to, if you will, for New Year's Eve, because I don't know that we're doing all that much other than like the virtual kind of thing on New Year's Eve with people, if not just the family in the house. And let me just, before I get to that, we'll talk about that in a minute, is that we'll be eventually watching the New Year's Eve ball being dropped. And the question is, and I think it's a good idea. They're going to continue dropping the ball, but there'll be no people in Times Square. Now, just before we get to that, did you know that in 1907 they banned fireworks from New Year's Eve? And therefore, the owner of the New York Times said, you know what? Let's do something safe. They built a wood and iron ball that weighed 700 pounds, was illuminated with 100 light bulbs, and was dropped from a flagpole at midnight on New Year's Eve in this brand new square that they reorganized and named Times Square, because it was named after the gentleman that owned the New York Times newspaper. And by the way, today that ball now weighs 12,000 pounds. Anybody have any interest in any of that trivia?
So there used to be fireworks?
Before that, 1904 to 1907, there were fireworks, but they felt it was too dangerous.
Interesting.
I didn't know that, but yeah, I never thought about. That's a great story of how the ball then originated and why.
Out of safety concerns.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And here it is to this day. Now, we'll be watching it with our kids. We do the pots and pans. They're, again, 8 and 11. When they were younger, I used to put on YouTube from the celebration from the prior year at 10 o'clock, or pretend 10 o'clock was 12, and get them to bed early.
Did you really do that?
I'm sure I did.
That is so manipulative. I love it.
Yeah. Ben, our son, used to fall asleep if we didn't even have to I think he'd just fall asleep on the couch anyway. We just wake him up. Man, it's New Year.
Well, let me ask you this, Michelle. When you're down the basement, did they give you the pots and pans? Am I speaking to the choir, or do you have any idea?
I don't no, that did not.
It might have been a New York thing. I remember that. Yeah,
I don't remember that. No.
Okay. So we had the wooden spoons that you cook with the pots and pans, whatever. And at that time, because maybe it's I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's a thing for the 60s, too, or 50s, because they didn't have as many noisemakers made. It was kind of... Now you can go to the dollar store and get noisemakers, right? I don't know that you can...
No, we had noise. That's what we had. We had noisemakers.
Okay.
I think they would... Our friends or something, they would bring those noisemakers that you would spin, and they would clatter.
The clacker
the clackers, and definitely.
I definitely have a memory of the pots and pans, and so that's a specialty for me, if you will. What do you think of this year being... We've got about 3 minutes left, and we'll continue the next section. This year being together with basically, you tell me. It sounds like it's going to be just the three of you this year. And do you usually do that? Do you have parties or used to do parties?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, we live in Manhattan, in the heart of New York City. So we used to go out on New Year's, even with our son when he was younger. We would go over to a friend's house or apartment and hang out there. But even that got to be a bit much, just because, I don't know, the trying to get a cab at 2 a.m. on New Year's was crazy, and it was always freezing cold. So actually, for many years, we've just been in the apartment and celebrating, just the three of us or the two of us. When our son got older, he started going out. So it's always been sort of an intimate thing. So this year for us personally is not going to be much different.
No.
I think the other holidays were, but how was it for you?
Let's see. Well, it certainly changes when you have a family. Let's go that way with it. Before, I can give you tons of memories of wonderful New Year's Eve before I had a family. After I've had the family, I have wonderful New Year's Eve, but they're totally, totally different. What we usually do now is we used to go out to dinner early, like an 8 o'clock dinner, come back at 10, and then we would watch, we would play a board game or what have you, and then watch the ball drop, and that would be that as a family. So we've not really done this for a good long 10 years with lots of other people. We've done it with other families here and there, but like for an hour or two visit and come home. So I'm with you. It's not what it used to be that way with respect to bringing the kids to a big house party, which now that the kids are 11 and 8, I think that we would be more open to doing now. They need less supervision, So from now till they're teens, I think starting next year, that might start to be what happens. But I like it to be a family event as well. This year, I think we'll just order. I'll get some food that we cook in and have an intimate time. There's the four of us. What else can you do? We'll do Zoom with Grandma and Grandpa and so forth. But it's lost its panache a little bit in that way that you won't see anybody. But for us personally, yeah, you're right. Doesn't change all that much, to tell you the truth.
I'm not going to miss seeing the throngs of people in Times Square. I think people were crazy for doing that in the first place. So to me, you're just putting it on. I usually just put it on to watch the ball drop anyway, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And I'm not really interested in those silly interviews and everything also. It's just all the same questions.
Gosh.
Oh, my goodness. Which we'll get back to in a couple of minutes here on Everything Old is New Again. It's celebrating Happy New Year to you and yours. Thank you for listening to us. If you want to hear our old New Year's show from last year, where we actually were in Times Square in person, live and in person, go to iHeartRadio and you could look for our old show for New Year's 2020. We'll be back right at this. Everything Old is New Again.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.
Hi, this is Tom Dreesen. After 50 years of stand-up comedy, there's nothing I enjoy more than listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again. This is Hal Linden inviting you to enjoy Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Alan Alda, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, my name is Johnny Russo, and I'm the author of Hollywood Godfather. It's currently on sale on Amazon, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with my good friend Doug and David.
Hi there, this is Earl Monroe. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
This is Jerry Cooney, former heavyweight contender. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen. And never brought
to mind. We're showing off our wares here on Everything Old is New Again. Some beautiful guests we had on the show through the years, celebrating with Tom Dreesen. That was Hal Linden, Alan Alda, Gianni Russo, who was in The Godfather, Earl Monroe, and of course Jerry Cooney, back here with Michelle DeFranco and David Cohen. David wanted to say something.
I got to tell you that Alan Alda bit, that's impressive. I think we should just play that only.
Just over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. That just adds heft to the show that I think, not disrespecting the other guests, because we've had some really great guests.
All of them are impressive.
All of them are impressive, and all of them, for the most part, are very, very interesting. But
we grew up with Alan Alda.
You hear Alan Alda's voice, it's sort of like that. It sort of shakes you out of whatever you're, daydreaming about. Like, whoa, that's Alan Alda.
That's a great point to think about. Through the years, we've had these interviews with terrific people that we've grown up with, and who had the choice, who had the thought that you would ever, be interviewing Alan Alda and Hal Linden and, Earl Monroe. I mean, come on, Jerry Cooney, whatever.
And you made Alan Alda laugh, too. You cracked him up.
I did a couple of times, yes. Thank you.
That was impressive.
Thank you. I enjoyed doing that. It is a good memory. Again, we're now on iHeartRadio. If you've missed old shows, you can just go right there. And all the podcast venue we're on. So feel free to do that if you want to actually hear the whole show with Alan Alda, which was a lot of fun, and any of the other guests. Anyway, where did New Year's Eve come from? What's the origin of New Year's Eve? What is it all about? Did you know? Well, let me ask you a question, trivia. Let's take a guess. What civilization is the first one that's recorded to have celebrated, and it's not going to be January 1st, but celebrated the coming of the new year? Michelle, I ask you first. Which one do you think? Which civilization? Greeks, number one. That's a question. David Cohen, answer. David Cohen?
The Romans.
Romans, okay. Romans are after the Greeks. I'm going with, because I looked it up, with the Egyptians. So,
well, that was the third choice.
Well, you didn't give us a chance to look it up.
Around 3000 BC, 5,000 years ago, the Egyptians took part in what's called they called it, I'm going to see if I can pronounce this right, Repit Renpit, which translates to opening of the year. So they did and celebrated with food, with romance, and with many of the characteristics that still last to this day.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? And they celebrated it because that was the time that the Nile River rose and made the lands fertile for growing food, which, of course, back in the day had to be the number one priority. Still is, of course, if you think about it. But thereafter, the Babylonians, 1,000 years later, they got involved with the same thing, but they added to this the promises of what you're going to do the following year. You know,
Resolutions.
Yeah, the resolutions. So that's
amazing that it still endures those same traditions.
the human condition is not all that different. There are certain things, right, that we resonate with, that we still relate with people all the way back then. It's incredible.
And also, I was going to say, especially now, I feel the way we celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas, because we do both here, and New Year's is so much now, even more so about like the food that you prepare. You know, I don't know, because we're home more, and something about cooking and preparing food and enjoying it together has become even more significant.
And it's more fun. Like, even, when Ben will be there, I would hope and think maybe that he'd maybe participate in the making of the food, or at least the eating, of course, or deciding the menu. Like, as a family, you could kind of dive into that a little bit and have some fun.
Definitely
making
a great
something
family
new.
Activity.
Now, what's your favorite food to make off the top of your head? Is there something that you're looking forward to having or making?
Well, usually like on like tonight we'll just do a bunch of like little appetizer type things, like that type of stuff, and crudité and stuff like that. And tomorrow we'll do just like traditional, like Italian meal with antipasto and pasta with fresh sauce and some meat, meatballs and stuff like that. But
That's
it
great.
just kind of goes by what my parents used to serve on New Year's Day. I don't know if it's traditional, but...
Well, tradition, we've done a show on this too, and tradition is important in that we looked back at New Year's in the past, and we've looked at seeing what our grandparents, how they celebrated New Year, and maybe we did that on a Christmas show. I think. No, it was New Year, and we wanted to express and see what foods they presented, and that at least, when Grandma used to come over with the small little onions in that milk, that white sauce. I don't know if you ever had that, but whatever. A certain meal, it now harkens back. You remember Grandma who's not here anymore, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that's important. Yeah. Now, I personally, when I think of New Year and I hear Guy Lombardo, immediately I salivate and think about Pigs in the Blanket. Do you do that?
I was thinking about Pigs in the Blanket too, and we didn't have them this year, and I'm like craving them right now.
And my thought always is, when I say that, I always hesitate, because I always think it's like, in this world of all these chefs on TV and all these recipes and all this stuff that people do, at Pigs in a Blanket, what? Like, what are you talking? But I have a clip here of someone that's actually going to give us little gravitas when it comes to Pigs in a Blanket.
Well, I wanted to show you guys how to make the Pigs in the Blankets. Take your rolling pin. This is puff pastry. You want to divide this dough into 1.5 inch wide strips. So you can mark 1.5 all the way like this.
She literally has a ruler out.
Using your nice little pizza.
He's in the kitchen with a ruler.
You want 3.5 inch wide pieces now.
A pizza cutter.
You can actually divide it in half, and you want 3.5 inches.
Okay, I get it, Martha. I mean, here's the thing. I love Martha Stewart. I love that she does Pigs in a Blanket. I think it's rather odd that you use a ruler in the kitchen to measure out the dough and make. Do you do that? I just kind of just do it.
David uses a ruler when he cooks.
Do you
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's easy and it's more accurate.
For what? What do you use a ruler for besides dough, measuring dough that Martha Stewart just did?
How long to cut vegetables? If the recipe says cut into 1 inch sections, and I'll take a ruler, because I don't remember how big an inch is.
He just refuses to estimate.
Yeah, that's
Well, why estimate when you have a ruler right there in the drawer?
That is something that Fondue Guy has got to bring to the table, because that, to me, is a very odd thing. I'm not putting it down.
I bake a lot too. I bake like pies and stuff, and that's much more scientific. Like with baking, you really have to be accurate. And I'm not saying you need a ruler necessarily, but say a cup or something, it really has to be exact.
Yeah, a measuring cup makes sense. A ruler to me is a little more complicated than it needs to be.
But
it's the same concept, so you're completely wrong.
Oh, but if that piece of
Doug, I wanted to.
Yes.
Sorry, I wanted to just surprise you with the fact that one of the things we're having tonight on New Year's Eve is fondue.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Not a chocolate fondue, I'm sure, because that would offend the sensibilities of fondue.
We got the idea just from listening to Everything Old is New Again.
So you're going to do it with what kind? Like, there's lots of different kinds. You're going to do cheese and bread, or you're going to do something else?
We're gonna do the cheese and bread. Yes, we're gonna melt the cheese, and that's
some veggies.
Yeah, and some veggies, some pieces of bread, and
bacon.
I think it's a great idea.
I thought you'd be interested.
Yeah, and I think your family will enjoy. I think Ben, it's just a kick to kind of just even if you don't love it, and I think you will love it. But even if you don't love the taste of it, just the novelty of doing it, of making your, sticking the bread in and melting.
And
we
used to do it when I was a kid. It was the biggest deal, and it was so much fun. It was one of the times like my family didn't fight. It just somehow we got along.
What a great idea. I think I'm going to do that myself. Gruyere is a cheese I remember as being one you need to have, and there's some kind of, what do you do, sherry or some kind of a liqueur you could put in there too, just to spice it up.
Listen, Doug, there's a friend of ours, friend of the show, who you can call anytime. Fondue guy, he'll tell you how to do it.
Jeez, we should have prepared.
The last thing I wanted to say on Pigs in Blanket, which, you could make them like Martha Stewart does, but to me, I just buy them frozen, right? What's wrong with those?
Oh, they're not half as good. That's what my mother-in-law does, yeah.
See, I've never had homemade.
The homemade is so good. You get the crescent rolls that are rolled up by Pillsbury. You open that up. You could measure them out if you want to, but you could rip them apart a little bit and just roll them around the hot dog. Put the hot dog in the oven for, even a toaster oven for, literally not even 10 minutes, maybe 15.
Mini hot dogs, though, right?
Mini hot dog, yes, Michelle.
So you can buy mini hot dogs?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You got to get the little hot dog. You can measure them. You can measure them, but they're about 1 inch. There might be 1 1/4 inch. There might be a little less than an inch. They're not universal, David, if that's okay.
We could do that for your birthday. His birthday's coming up in January.
There you go. So there you go. Nice idea. I'm going to now we're going to put water on the idea in that not Miss Piggy, but there's Piggy Pop baking mold that's being sold. So if we want to ruin the idea of pigs in a blanket, listen to this.
Pop, pop, pop! They're Piggy Pops, the new delicious pigs in a blanket treat that look like little pigs. And now everyone can make them fast and easy with the amazing new Piggy Pop Bake Pan. It's easy. Just pour in any batter, fill with your favorite franks, and bake. Wow, in just minutes, 12 homemade pigs in a blanket that pop out and look amazing. Piggy Pops are guaranteed to impress your guests.
Impress and make them run for the hills. It's a mold that looks like pigs, and plant your hot dog goes in the middle. David.
Hi, sharks. What a terrible idea.
Oh my God, I don't think so at all. I want that.
You do? Interesting. Yes. Well, now I know what to get you for the holidays.
I love stuff like that.
You'll get a delivery from Amazon. If that company's still in business, we'll find out. I don't know.
I think it will.
I'll look it up. All right. Another memory of the New Year's Eve Poseidon adventure. A lot of aggravation happened as a result of a big wave. And we're having a big wave here of fun on Everything Old is New Again, the entertainment pop culture talk show you go to on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Okay, what is happening now, Jay?
Well, we're going to return to Everything Old is New Again with Doug and Dave.
Oh, okay. I got nothing else better to do.
This is Jim Leyritz, former two-time World Series champion New York Yankee, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hey, this is Joel Hotstrom, the creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani.
Hello, this is Paul Michael Glazer. You may know me from Starsky and Hutch, and I am right now enjoying a really interesting conversation. Everything old is new again.
Hi, this is David Soul. You're listening to Douglas Viviani and David Cohen, and Everything Old is New Again. Take my word for it.
And we've got Guy Lombardo here. After all these years, he's back. Introducing Everything Old is New Again. How apropos. We're here with Michelle DeFranco, David Cohen, celebrating New Year's Eve with you. This is our New Year's Eve weekend, because in some stations we're the day before New Year's, some stations we're on New Year's Eve right now, and some stations we are on the day after New Year's. Regardless, Happy New Year. We're looking forward to many more with you, and have had some fun through the years. And if you want to listen to and see what we've done in the past, go to iHeartRadio. We're on there for the podcasts. and the old shows, stay tuned to your radio station to hear the brand new shows every week. Brand new show always on Everything Old is New Again. David Cohen, that was Jay Johnson, Jim Leyritz, Joel Hodgson, and Starsky and Hutch, of course, coming back to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, everything you want to say for the new year. And David Cohen, is that in any way, shape, or form bring you any memories of any times from the New Year's, any times in your New Year's, your whole life that you want to bring about? Like, we spoke to Michelle, and she mentioned some memories. How about your memories as a kid, or even any New Year's that stand out that was a lot of fun?
I remember I used to have annual New Year's Eve parties. Well, not always, maybe for 3 or 4 years in a row, in a tiny apartment in Greenwich Village in the city. And I think Michelle was at probably the last one, I guess. But I just remember there were so many people that were crammed into this tiny studio apartment, and they were always really fun. And people would leave, and then I remember one night, I actually went to bed. The party was over. And like 2:30 in the morning, someone buzzes. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it was someone I knew from work, and her boyfriend, who was a guard in Rikers Island. And they, sorry, we're late. And I'm like, well, there's no one here, but you can come up if you want. And they came up, and I just remember having like a real memorable, just the three of us were just sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he showed me his gun. He walked around with a gun holster to his ankle. I thought that was special. And for some odd reason, it's just a memory that always comes back to me on New Year's, because it was just so like out of the blue. And
but also sometimes those big parties, the best time of those big, especially when you're a host, the best times of those big, and we're saying big, it doesn't matter. It does not. It's big in a small studio. It still was big, 20, 30 people, whatever. The best time is when it gets down to a small amount of people. You know what I mean? When you have time to sit down and talk and enjoy. Because a lot of times when you're hosting those parties, you run around like a lunatic. Where's this? Where's that? Where's the garbage? Everybody asking you questions and whatever, So, those are good memories. Now, speaking of memories and things, of course, I always think of our grandparents, and before that, what they were doing. And I have a little bit of a cute thing here that we can look back at 10 things that we have learned from our grandparents to do during New Year's Eve. Or for New Year's Eve. Now, of course, there's the resolutions. We go back, of course, to the Babylonians. We know that. We talked about that. But how about actually keeping the resolutions? There were supposedly a day when people actually did keep the resolutions. Have you ever... We'll talk about resolutions in the fourth section, but Michelle, have you... any resolutions in mind that you remember doing that you've actually kept, or David, whoever comes to play here? But I can't think of one that I've actually been able to keep through the years.
No.
The silence speaks.
I remember a recent one, fairly recent, maybe like 6-7 years ago, where in the business world, like suddenly in the old days, when you wanted to speak to someone, you picked up the phone. That was the only way you can communicate, or had an in-person meeting. But then when email came along, like the whole world changed. And I remember once I had gotten so far removed from wanting to pick up the phone and call people. It's so much easier just to shoot an email to someone, that one of my New Year's resolutions was, I'm going to email less. I'm going to actually pick up the phone and start calling people and speak to them more. And that lasted, I think, January 2nd. And then it was just, no one answered the phone. It's like I try to call people, but who is this? They'll call you back. Or I go right to the voicemail. I had to end up sending an email anyway, so it was very short-lived, but I think my heart was in the right place.
I agree with you. I enjoyed the phone call. It is time-consuming, but that's okay because you're visiting with somebody, and you're not just throwing your 2 cents in one sentence, Right. Now, our grandparents, great-grandparents, and way back to the 1600s, believe it or not, they had something called a New Year's tree. Did you know that?
No.
They used tinsel as well everywhere from that day forward to celebrate the new year. They didn't use fireworks and whatever else, especially in the 1600s and there forward. They used tinsel. Tinsel is gone now. You don't see tinsel too much anymore, do you? Or
you mean the kind that hangs straight
down?
Or
They used to.
Yeah,
they used to throw it
because it was like a fire. It was a fire hazard.
You might be right. But for like 400 years, they used it to celebrate the new year. Throwing it around the house, magic cleaning all that up the next day with no vacuum, by the way.
Because I do remember it being on Christmas trees back.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they They did it back then. How about, we talked about New Year's food. How about, I just want to talk a little bit about in Spain. It's interesting. They eat 12 white grapes. And in Chile, they use lentils. And those are to be something that, and I don't know why, is supposed to give you good luck for the following year. And they still do it to this day.
Lentils definitely help in a lot of ways, especially as you get older.
Clean you right out, start fresh.
And the grapes, I guess the grapes could have the same effect. You know, I like those ideas.
There you go. Our grandparents, great-grandparents, and thereafter, just looking at the service here of what they've done, and maybe we still do or don't do anymore. They used to pray all the time at New Year's. That was something important for them, to say a prayer before the New Year. How about the traditional drink of New Year's? Now, remember, champagne wasn't around forever, right? Didn't come around till basically the late 1700s.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you have instead? What would be a traditional drink if you don't have champagne?
Wine?
Well, they had a punch with English origins called a hot pint. And basically was hot rum. That would be the big drink for years and years and years and years. So maybe I would go back to that.
Awesome. I'd like to bring that back.
That's not a bad idea, right? Rum. Hot rum. Grandma and Grandpa we talked about this, used to blow horns and ring bells, and church bells would go off, and fireworks, and Chinese, custom would be, the New Year's custom would be fireworks. We know that. And now, of course, we're down to the ball. We've talked about that. Other things, they used to give a gift at New Year. So you would give a gift to someone. The old
gifts?
Yes, the old Farmer's Almanac would say, give a gift of eggs for fertility, or give different kind of shortbread or coal or silverware. With the Egyptian actually gave food as a gift, seeds and so forth, to their neighbors to get them to start the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give some seeds.
Or like oranges, isn't that like like for sweet life or something like that?
Yeah, I mean the Romans used to bring, of course, coins was big, but also nuts. They would bring nuts to the various parties, and just something to help your host, let's say, start the new year on the right foot. So that's kind of cool. And then how about kissing at midnight?
Yeah, where did that come from? I hate that.
You know what? That's one of the reasons I like to just be home.
In my family, when I was younger, it was actually midnight beatings. My dad would strike us across the face right at midnight.
You take the strap out, the belt out. You don't like the pressure of, like, if you're at a table, let's say back in the day, and you'd have, a table of 12 in some facility where you're celebrating with your friends, to go around to all 12 or 11 other people and kiss all of them?
Good God, especially not now. I'm not, no. No, it's just, I don't like that.
It's awkward. I remember being with people at a party. Who are you supposed to kiss?
Well, it's awkward when you get
old. Have a girlfriend or boyfriend.
Right. When you're younger, it's one thing. But when you're older, it's awkward when you're with couples, and you don't want to be kissing 16 wives, and you know what I mean. Like, it's an odd shaking hands with the man, and it's weird. It's a weird thing. Right. Like, what do you do? Walking around the table saying hello. But that is something. And finally, our grandparents would send, if they went to a party, a thank you note. Do you do that anymore?
I send thank you notes.
Yeah, my wife does that all the time. They had manners, and they stuck to them, so to speak.
Nobody has parties anymore. Or hopefully in 2021 we'll have lots of parties.
I'll make a prediction.
I do like that idea of sending a thank you.
Yeah, I think 2020 is going to be like the 1920s. I think people are going to, kind of, as they did it coming out of that old plague, in this situation, it's kind of wild. Like, oh my God, I've been in the house for a year.
You are not the first person that I've heard say that. The Roaring 20s. I've heard other people say that's going to be what's happening.
I'm hoping I'm right. Who the heck? What do I know? But Michelle, we know you have to go, so thank you very much for spending time with us. Happy New Year. We'll be back
New Year.
Right after this, and everything old is new again. Great to have you as always.
Hi, Hi, this is Karen Allen. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, I'm John Billingsley, Dr. Phlox from Starship Enterprise. You are listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen, masters of the art of radio.
Hey, this is John Delancey, and I am listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani.
Hi, this is Manny Cotto, a creator, executive producer, and showrunner of the new Fox show Next, premiering October 6th, and this is Everything Old is New Again, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Kevin Byrne, the executive producer and creator of The Unexplained with William Shatner, airing 10 p.m. on the History Channel, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hey, this is Richard Kahn. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, but what you're listening to is new and has nothing to do with old. They're just talking about old, but this is all new.
We hear Everything Old is New Again, David Cohen. We are looking back at all the people that we've had on the show and thanking them and thinking of the memories of them. But you know what? The best time that we have, or I have, is just David Cohen and I having the arguments you love to have about contemporary nostalgia, if you will, and we're going to continue that here, talking a little bit about a New Year, New Year's Eve, and I'll tell you what, it is a time to reflect back. We've done a lot of nice things with this show. I'm proud of it. We've done a lot of good things, and I'm looking forward to some more spreading the word, so to speak, of Everything Old is New Again. But the most important thing is getting together with David Cohen and just having some fun every so often. This is really, unfortunately, because of the pandemic and all, the only time we even get to socialize, so to speak. So you're hearing us socialize on the air, here live on Everything Old is New Again. David Cohen.
Yeah, and Doug, likewise, right back at you. I mean, especially during these times. We're doing this via Zoom, but it just personally, it's been a great respite for me in this craziness, just to know that we're going to get together and just get to be silly and hang out together. So thank you for that.
There you go. And likewise, I couldn't do it without you, that's for sure. As I always say, this show would be less than half without you, if that makes sense. Just me talking to myself is just not the same. Trust me, my wife could tell you that. Sure. And playing clips to myself and whatever is all silliness, and it doesn't work without David Cohen. So anyway, my pleasure. Here we are possibly talking about resolutions, but I think you had to carry over from the last section. Maybe you tell me, you had something you wanted to continue with.
Speaking of the new year, but it's funny because looking back and this time in the holiday time, thinking about being with family, and there were obviously a lot of limitations to being able to do that this year. But wow, I've made a lot of promises, Doug, to family. About like, after the pandemic is over, when things get back to normal, like, I think I've made too many promises. You're on the phone with, especially like, older relatives, and you feel bad for them. And, I'm telling like uncles and aunts and my mom and dad, like, yeah, as soon as this is over, we're going to get together, like every day. We're going to get together and I'm looking back and as, we're approaching hopefully things getting much better, and the reality of being able to visit with people again on a regular basis is getting closer, I'm getting more worried, to be honest with you. It's like, you're going to be expecting so much of me now. There's no way I'm going to see these people.
Can't live up to the hype. You have to send them the iHeartRadio clip and say, listen, this is part of it. Listen to me on this show. It's as if I was there. And so have the show be your surrogate, you know what I mean? Exactly. I agree with you. It's hard because you make the promises, you want to do things, and you don't know what to do. Can you live up to it? What are you going to do? Think about the lines. What's going to happen with the lines for movies, the lines for plays, the lines for things we haven't been able to do yet. We may be over promising because we're not going to be able to do a heck of a lot. Though you could visit, and that's the
and I think what we were saying before was right in that. It will be like the 20s, the roaring 20s for a while. People are going to be like, going crazy and getting together and really, like you said, fighting the lines. Everything is going to be crowded because everyone's going out at the same exact time again, right? But, look, I'm kind of a pessimist about some of these things, too. I think that we'll eventually get back to the real normal. And if you think about it, like, are we really going to be getting together with people this much? Before this whole thing happened, were we that social to begin with?
Well, the other thing is there actually going to be a day when, this is silly to say, but you almost imagine it. Okay, everybody, you're all set. go. Like, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be gradual. This one's going to get the vaccine. That one's not going to have it. We're going to have to wait for this one. How do we know if someone has the vaccine? Hey, is it all right not to go with the mask because now most of the people have the vaccine? Whatever. There's going to be a lot. It's going to be a gradual change. We're not going to just all of a sudden, the floodgates aren't just going to open up,
No, and once we have we can no longer use the excuse of not being able to get together because of COVID. It's going to be back to the old, it's snowing out there. Let's get together some other time. I think we're going to forget how we took all of that for granted and just go right back to normal.
Yes, but what about this? You do all of that the first time. You see your buddies, you see your family, you see everybody the first time. This is great. We had a great time. Went to the bar and whatever. We're great. And then do you follow it up, or is it like, okay, that's it?
Because you realize, what? It wasn't that great. I missed it when I couldn't have it, but now that I have it again, it really wasn't that good. Sorry.
That's why you need to listen to the radio, because it's always good, consistent, good, clean fun.
Yes.
Here on Everything Old is
reliable, dependable, always there.
EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz, EverythingOldIsNewAgain.biz. By the way, like us on Facebook, whatever you're doing here, trying to get a little bit of fun out, an original airing of programming out, and we did that through the whole pandemic. We're going to continue to do that. David Cohen, do you have some kind of, yes?
Well, I wanted to ask you, this is a special year, I think, to have a New Year's resolution. I usually don't do that because I think that's just kind of a... What about you, though? Is there anything that you would like to do differently in the new year? Maybe not a resolution so much, but something you'd like to change about yourself.
Yes, I have two things. The first is
Two?
Yes.
Nice.
The first is physically. I have to make sure that I become more consistent with seeing doctors. People forget to see doctors. You get into a mode, and all of a sudden, that backache or those gallstones. What do they call them? The different things that you have that you're just sort of not addressing. I now am in the habit. I'm going to be like a car. When you're out of oil, you go into the doctor. Any twinge that I feel, I'm going to be more of Felix Unger than Oscar Madison now, and go to the doctor and find out what's going on here, man. And that's important, because as you get older, you get into bad habits. And I used to go to a physical once a year, and that's it. And sometimes you need to really, especially as you get older, you need to just take a look under the hood. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And there's no question as you get older that you should be more diligent about that.
Yeah, but there's a time that someone has to tell you that, or something happens to you that makes you think of, gee, you know what? Maybe I really should go to the dentist twice a year. Maybe I really should go to, get my physical twice a year, or get that colonoscopy and whatever else, So there's stuff to do. So you can get lost in your family, you get lost in your work, you get lost in stuff, and you become selfless, or at least I do, and you completely forget about you taking care of yourself, not to mention getting on the treadmill and everything else. So that's it. This year I'm going to change physically in many ways. So that's my first, and it will happen. The second, I don't make resolutions. I've never made resolutions, so I say that with confidence only because it's one of the first ones I'm making. So we'll see how disappointed I get at the end, but we'll try. The second thing is, and I'm getting older, I have got to mellow. There are times when something happens, and I'm not good under a stressful situation where, I don't know, one of my kids stepped on something and they start bleeding, or Leo was in the shower and he fell the other day and he's had to get stitches, and the initial 10, 15 minutes when it happens, I'm not good. Afterwards, I took him to the doctors. I was great. We went to Cohen's, kids hospital. I was, I had myself in the back, but I was good. Walked him through it. He was afraid and whatever. Did everything great, I think. But I'm terrible, and it's bad for the family for the first 10, 15 minutes. I sort of am one of these, panicked guys. I got to learn to control that. I'll scream. I'll say, what'd you do? How could you do that? Gosh darn it.
You get upset.
I get upset. I start cursing. I start, ripping the shirt, figuratively speaking, and what's going on. And I think of it, it's like the end of the world and the kid's going to die. I'm acting like that. It's not becoming. So I have to change that and try to become more in control. I don't know, but I think becoming aware of it is probably the first step.
The first step.
Interesting.
I wouldn't have guessed that about you, but
I wouldn't have guessed it either, but we've had some stuff happen, and I'm great after it calms down. But the first, when I see the blood and I see what's happened, the initial reaction is not good. I'm exaggerating. It might be only 3 or 4 minutes actually, but it's the initial reaction. Is some people just okay? You're bleeding from your head. I see a big gap. I can see your skull.
Your brain.
Your brain. It's okay. Let's go to the doctor now. That's not me. Yeah. I don't know how you get to be like that. But anyway, that's my thing. We're at the end of the show.
It's good that you realize that and that you're willing to work on it.
Yeah, it's important.
It is important.
Yeah, you need to always improve. You're never done. Now, bottom line is, I'm going to play here as a little New Year's gift to David Cohen, his favorite scene of any New Year's movie of all time, and wish all of you a happy and healthy and happy New Year. Happy twice, New Year, and let's really have some fun arguing and having the arguments you love to have, I should say, and being civil with each other. All right, what do you say, David Cohen?
Yes, Happy New Year. Let's hear it. I'm anxious to see what my surprise is.
No, but not this way.
There it is.
How about this way?
See if I got it right.
I love that you get cold when it's 71 degrees. I love that it takes you an hour and a half to order a sandwich. I love that you get a little crinkle above your nose.
Did I get it right?
I mean, like I'm nuts.
When Harry met Sally.
I love that after I spend a day with you,
I do like
I can still smell your perfume on my clothes, and I love that you are the last person I want to talk to before I go to sleep at night. And it's not because I'm lonely, and it's not because it's New Year's Eve. I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
There you go. Happy New Year, David Cohen. And everybody
Happy New
listening.
Year, Doug Viviani.
All right, let's have some fun this year. You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.